Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're taking a bit of an unexpected journey.
Hmm?
We're not digging into, scientific papers or dusty historical texts.
Wow.
You know that feeling, right? Yeah, there are only 24 hours in a day. You've heard it, you've said it, you've probably felt it deep in your bones.
Oh, absolutely. It's universal.
And for years, well, like a lot of you listening, I figured the answer was just better time management. I was kind of a productivity enthusiast, I'll admit.
Were we all?
Totally. Obsessed with keyboard shortcuts, endless to-do lists, inbox zero, anything really to squeeze every last drop out of that clock.
And that drive to maximize every single minute, it often feels like the only way. We're trying so hard to get more done.
Yeah, but it often feels like you're just, I don't know, squeezing blood from a stone, like you said. There's this real frustration when you pour time into something, especially creative stuff, and nothing. The output just isn't there.
That hitting a wall feeling.
Exactly. All that effort and seemingly no progress. But what if that core idea that time management is the key? What if that's actually holding us back, especially now in what some call the creative age?
Well, that's the big shift we're exploring today.
Is there a different way to think about productivity altogether?
That's the paradigm shift, yeah. The idea is that modern productivity, particularly for creative work, it isn't really about managing time anymore. It's about mind management.
Mind management. Okay. So to really unpack this, we're doing a deep dive into David Kadavy's book, Mind Management, Not Time Management.
It's a really insightful take on this.
And we know many of you have shared your own struggles with finding focus, dealing with information overload. So our mission today is to pull out the most important insights from Kadavy's work. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding this new way of thinking.
We want to explore why those traditional time management tricks fall short now in this creative age, as he calls it.
And hopefully arm you with some practical frameworks, maybe some surprising facts that can help you cultivate the right mental conditions for doing truly impactful work, even when life inevitably gets chaotic.
You might discover some unexpected truths about how your own brain works and how you can harness its power more effectively.
Okay, so this whole idea of mind management, it wasn't just some abstract theory for Kadavy, was it? It came from a real crisis point for him.
Absolutely. He got his first book deal, huge opportunity, right? So he cleared his schedule, dedicated all his time to writing, 12 hours a day sometimes.
Sounds like the dream setup for a writer.
You'd think, but he found himself physically aching. Actual pain in his stomach, his chest, his fingers felt like they were locking up like rigor mortis. He was struggling to write even a single sentence, just pure agony.
Wow, that sounds brutal, like classic debilitating writer's block, but physical too.
Exactly. Despite putting in all that time, he's just hitting an impasse. So, completely desperate, he takes this last-minute trip to a retreat in Costa Rica, just hoping for some kind of miracle.
And did he find one?
Well, sort of. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. He was feeling like a total failure. Sure, he'd miss his deadline. But then he's out walking, and he strikes up this seemingly random conversation with a local guy named Diego.
Just small talk.
Pretty much. Broken Spanish,
Yeah.
talking about the sun, the sea,
Yeah.
simple stuff. But that conversation, that little interaction, it put him in such a relaxed state of mind.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. Almost immediately after that chat, he sat down and had his first truly productive, easy writing session in ages. What felt impossible just hours before suddenly flowed.
So it wasn't about having the time. It was about being in...
The right state of mind. That was the key insight. That experience really drove home for him that, especially today, productivity is much more about managing your mind than just managing your clock.
And that idea, managing your mind state, it feels even more critical when you look at how work itself is changing, this creative age he talks about.
Definitely. We hear so much about AI and automation. Kai-Fu Lee, the AI expert, he predicts something like 40 to 50% of jobs could be eliminated in the next decade or two.
That's a huge number. Which jobs are most at risk?
He says the first to go are what he calls optimization-based jobs. These are tasks where the goal is basically to find the single best solution within a clear set of rules or data.
Like processing a loan application or following a customer service script.
Exactly. Loan underwriters, customer service reps, even radiologists reading scans according to set parameters. AI is getting incredibly good at that kind of optimization.
Okay, so what's safe then? If AI takes the optimization jobs,
The jobs that require creativity, And, creativity here isn't just painting or writing poetry, though it includes that.
Right, it's broader.
It's defined as coming up with solutions that are both novel, new, and useful, often in messy, unstructured situations where the outcome isn't easily measured.
That's where we humans still have an edge, right? He uses that example of NaNoWriMo.
National Novel Writing Month, yeah, where people try to write a novel in a month.
Compared to NanoGenmo.
Where programmers try to get computers to generate novels using code.
And the results from the AI novels are...
Let's just say they're often more comical than compelling. Janelle Shane, another AI expert, she tweeted one AI-generated first sentence. I was playing with my dog, Mark the Brown Labrador, and I had forgotten that I was also playing with a dead man.
Okay, yeah, not exactly literary genius yet.
Not quite. It shows that while a computer can churn out 50,000 words incredibly fast, it can't yet, think up a coherent, meaningful story.
So our advantage isn't speed. A computer will always be faster.
Our edge is thinking the thoughts behind the doing. Like the entrepreneur Naval Ravikant says, earn with your mind, not your time.
That's powerful, but it clashes so much with how we're conditioned to think about work and time. Where did that obsession come from?
Well, you could trace a lot of it back over a century to a guy named Frederick Taylor.
Ah, Taylorism, scientific management.
Exactly. He basically revolutionized productivity in the early 20th century. Famous story.
Me too.
Goes to Bethlehem Steel with a stopwatch.
Right, timing the workers, lifting chunks of iron.
Yeah, tweaking their movements, finding the one best way to do it. And their productivity quadrupled. He literally saw time as a production unit. Add more time, tweak the method, get more output. Simple.
And that mindset is just everywhere now, isn't it? Waking up to alarms, GPS telling us travel times down to the minute, timesheets.
Everything assumes that doing things faster or just spending time on something makes it valuable. Time is money.
Right.
That's the mantra.
But there's a huge flaw in that thinking, isn't there? Even Taylor himself bumped up against it.
He did. He found out that any production unit, any resource, has its limits. If you push it too hard, the benefits stop.
How so?
With his steel workers, he realized if he tried to fill all their time with perfectly efficient movements, their output actually dropped. They got exhausted.
Yeah.
He had to prescribe rest periods.
Ah, so he discovered diminishing returns.
Exactly. That's diminishing returns. Each extra bit of effort gives you less output than the last bit, like a tired worker moving fewer chunks of iron per hour.
And it can get even worse than that, right?
Oh, yeah. You can hit negative returns where pushing harder actually decreases your total output. Push that tired worker too much, they might collapse, and you get way less done overall than if you'd let them rest.
It seems so obvious when you put it like that, yet somehow we seem to have doubled down on worshiping time itself.
It's like Mark Manson said, time has become our God value. It's the lens we see everything else through. We feel guilty about empty calendar slots. We say yes to meetings just to fill them.
We can't stand the thought of empty space in our day.
And it leads to some really weird behaviors, doesn't it? Like that exit strategy app for the New York subway, figuring out which car saves you seconds get into the exit.
Or Kadavy's college neighbor who literally ran everywhere to save time.
Or Kadavy himself mastering a no-look pass to hit the elevator button faster.
It's almost funny, but it also points to something deeper. This time worship, it breeds incivility, doesn't it?
It really does. The friend who's always late because they can't bear to be a minute early, the waiter practically throwing the check at you, that collective groan when someone takes too long at the checkout.
It's all rooted in this feeling that time is being stolen, this kind of false god of time.
And what's really ironic is how we treat our own unused time. We call it free time, but you don't call leftover money free money, do you?
No, you save it. It's a nest egg, earns interest.
Exactly. Kadavy argues unused time is like that nest egg. It can yield future benefits, deeper thinking, unexpected insights, creativity if you don't immediately spend it.
So when you save time by being efficient, the idea is you should keep that saved time, let it compound, not just fill it with more tasks.
But our culture fights against that. An empty slot on your calendar, fair game for someone else to grab. Jason Fried calls it calendar Tetris.
There's even that app, Look Busy, that fills your calendar with fake appointments.
It just shows how ingrained this is. The bottom line is, for today's kind of thinking work, creative work, just managing time like a production unit, well, it's past the point of diminishing returns. It might even be giving us negative returns.
We need a fundamentally different approach.
We need to move beyond just optimizing minutes. Time isn't the simple input we thought it was, especially for creativity.
Okay, so if time management is dead, or at least not the answer for creative work, what takes its place? This brings us back to Kadavy's big move, right? To Medellín, Colombia.
Right. He'd been doing his best writing there during winter escapes for years. He finally decided, okay, I need to figure out why. So he moved there full-time.
He was basically running an experiment on himself to find the optimal conditions for his mind.
Exactly. And the science backs up the idea that our mental energy isn't constant. We have these powerful biological rhythms, the circadian system, the sleep debt system.
That explains that classic 2:30 feeling in the afternoon, right? That slump.
That's a real biological dip, yeah.
Yeah.
It's why some cultures, like Spain with its siesta, have built rest right into the middle of the day.
And this applies to focused work, too.
Definitely. Anders Ericsson's famous study on world-class violinists found they did their most intense, focused practice in just 2 to 4 hours, usually in the morning.
And lots of famous creators were morning people. Wharton, Heller, Wolfe, Stravinsky. They seem to tap into that peak morning energy.
But here's the really counterintuitive part, that sharp, laser-focused state we usually strive for, the one driven by our prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, the CEO of the brain, the part that plans and keeps us on task.
Well, for certain kinds of creative thinking, especially divergent thinking where you need new ideas, that CEO actually gets in the way. It interferes.
Wait, what? We're always told to focus harder, be sharper. How can the CEO be the problem?
Think of your brain like a racquetball court. Ideas are those super bouncy blue balls flying everywhere. The prefrontal cortex, the CEO, is in there with a racket, trying to impose order, smacking every ball neatly to the front wall, following the rules.
Okay.
But creativity, insight, often comes when those balls collide unexpectedly. The CEO, by trying to control everything, prevents those random fruitful collisions.
So being too focused can block insights.
Weirdly, yes. There are even studies showing people with damaged prefrontal cortices sometimes do better on insight problems because there's less filtering, less control.
Wow. Okay, so what Kadavy calls your creative sweet spot.
Is that time when your prefrontal cortex isn't running at full steam, when it's a bit relaxed, maybe a bit groggy, allowing for more of those creative collisions, more divergent thinking.
This explains the practical tip he gives, the first hour rule.
Exactly. Dedicate the very first hour of your workday, before the emails, before the meetings, before your CEO brain fully boots up to your most important creative task.
It's like catching an early flight. Fewer things have had a chance to go wrong yet.
Right. It builds momentum, protects that fragile creative state, and trains your focus over time.
And you can even sometimes harness grogginess, like from jet lag.
Yeah, not for detailed analytical work, obviously, but for brainstorming, for generating raw ideas. That groggy state where the CEO is half asleep can actually be quite productive. It fits the explore mental state we'll talk about later.
Okay, so managing your energy state is key. But there's another shift he noticed in Medellín related to time itself, right? This temporal switch.
Yeah, this was fascinating. He found that after about 3 weeks there, something would click. He'd face some big inconvenience like a concert getting canceled and the refund process being impossible instead of getting furious like he would initially.
You just chill out.
Exactly. He'd suddenly internalized the local attitude, summed up by the phrase, no pasa nada.
Which means...
Literally nothing happens,
Yeah.
but it means don't worry, it'll work out, it's not a big deal. He shifted his whole perspective on time.
This connects to that idea of clock time versus event time cultures.
Precisely. Robert Levine, a psychologist, studied this. Clock time cultures, like the US or Germany, are driven by schedules. 3 p.m. means 3 p.m. Event time cultures, common in Latin America or the Middle East, are driven by the outcome or the activity itself.
So lunch is when you're hungry, not necessarily at noon. A meeting ends when you've finished the discussion, not when the clock hits the hour.
Right, and remember the un ocho días example. You make an appointment for a week from today. In Colombia, they say in 8 days.
Why 8?
Because today counts as an event, and the appointment day counts as an event. They count the days inclusive of the start and end. It reflects that event-based thinking.
And how does this relate back to creativity?
Well, think about insight. It's sudden, unpredictable. It's not linear like following steps on a jogging path.
More like navigating a maze, maybe hitting dead ends before finding the way out?
Exactly. Analytical thinking fits clock time. Well, step 1, step 2, finish by 5. But insight, you don't know when it will strike. An event time orientation, being focused on the outcome rather than the clock, is much better suited for that maze-like process.
Plus, being less stressed about the clock probably helps too.
Definitely. Research shows a positive mood actually enhances insightful thinking. Being in event time, feeling less pressured by the schedule, fosters that positive state.
And it ties into this deeper realization that our units of time, hours, minutes, seconds, they're totally artificial, aren't they?
Completely. We inherited them from the Babylonians, like 4,000 years ago. Even nature isn't perfectly regular. The Earth's rotation wobbles, which is why we need leap seconds and leap years to keep our clocks aligned.
So for creative work, we should treat time as descriptive, not prescriptive.
Exactly. Think like a chef. A pinch of this, a dash of that. Not like a scientist demanding precise measurements down to the microsecond. Let the task dictate the time, not the other way around.
And the result for Kadavy in Medellín, living this way.
It was incredible. He quadrupled his creative output. He produced the equivalent of 2 books worth of writing in just 1 year.
Wow. And that volume matters, right? It's not just about one masterpiece.
Right. Dean Simonson's research on creative geniuses, Picasso, Beethoven, O'Keeffe, shows a strong link between quantity and quality. They produced a lot of work, and among that vast output were the groundbreaking masterpieces. You often need to generate many ideas to find the truly great ones.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. So how do we start putting this into practice? How do we manage our minds? He breaks it down into different mental states, doesn't he?
Yes, the 7 mental states of creative work. It's a really useful framework. He uses the mnemonic PER, golf, BRR, to help remember them.
PER golf, PAR. Okay, what are they?
Prioritize figuring out what's important. Explore brainstorming, open-ended thinking, research gathering information, creating usable output like writing or coding, polish editing, refining, administrate handling emails, scheduling, routine tasks, and recharge rest, recovery.
Prioritize, explore, research, generate, polish, administrate, recharge. Got it. Why is knowing these states so important?
Because it helps you match your work to your current mental energy and mood, and vice versa. You wouldn't try to do intense polishing work when you're feeling groggy and better suited for exploring, right? Cal Newport even talked about different flavors of deep work, which echoes this idea.
Makes sense. But are the lines always clear between them? Like explore versus generate?
No, they can definitely be fuzzy. Think of Twyla Tharp starting a new dance. She fills a box with random stuff, music, books, clippings, even a green beret. A lot of that is exploration.
Just gathering raw material.
Right. But some of her early exploratory choreography might look like generation to an outsider. The key difference is your goal.
Ah, okay. So in explore, the goal is low pressure idea finding, okay to fail. In generate, you're aiming for something actually usable.
Exactly. And trying to force generation when you should be exploring or vice versa, that's a recipe for getting stuck.
And once you're in a state, say, generate mode.
Try to stay in that state. Switching gears mentally is costly. It takes time to ramp up.
Yeah.
And constantly shifting actually trains your brain for distraction. Batch similar tasks together.
What about the tools we use? Do they affect our mental state?
Hugely. He talks about grippy versus slippy tools.
Grippy and slippy.
Yeah. Grippy tools are things like pen and paper or maybe a simple text editor like an AlphaSmart NEO. They minimize distractions. They make you slow down a bit.
Yeah.
Great for early stage thinking, exploring, generating first drafts.
They have friction.
Right. Slippy tools are like your powerful laptop connected to the internet. Super efficient for execution like polishing or administrate, but dangerously easy to slip into distraction.
So the trick is maybe making slippy tools grippier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like deliberately disabling notifications or not having social media apps on the tablet you use for writing. Using tools intentionally to support the mental state you need.
And it's not just tools, it's the whole environment, right? The physical space.
Oh, absolutely. There's fascinating research on this. Construal level theory suggests that your physical surroundings influence how abstractly or concretely you think.
How does that work?
Think about being in a wide open space, maybe looking out a window with a long view. Your mind naturally tends towards bigger picture, abstract thinking, great for prioritizing or exploring.
Whereas a smaller, more enclosed space.
Helps you focus on details, specifics, better for polishing or analytical research.
Interesting. What else about space?
There's prospect refuge theory. Our instinct to feel safer and more expansive when we have a wide view, like being on a high floor. One study even found stock traders on higher floors took more risks.
Wow. And noise. We hear about coffee shop noise being good for creativity.
There's something to that. A moderate level of background noise, around 70 decibels, like the indistinct chatter in a coffee shop, seems to be optimal for idea generation, for exploring. Too quiet or too loud can hinder it.
Even body position matters.
Apparently so. Standing up, or even reclining, seems to be more conducive to creative thinking than sitting upright in a chair. Using your whole body, like sketching on a huge whiteboard, can also encourage more expansive generative thinking.
So many subtle influences, but these are general principles, right? We need to figure out what works for us individually.
Absolutely. These are guidelines, not rigid rules. The key is experimentation. Find your own rituals. Mark McGinnis, a creative coach, uses a specific Star Wars mug to cue his writing state.
Twyla Tharp's ritual starts the moment she hails the cab to go to the gym each morning.
Right. It's about finding those personal triggers that tell your brain, okay, it's time for this kind of thinking now. Your environment isn't just passive, it's actively shaping your mind state.
Okay, so we've got managing energy, finding the sweet spot, understanding mental states, shaping our environment. How do we sustain this over the long haul? How do we make progress consistently?
That's where creative cycles come in. It's about building repeatable progressions of focus and release. Think of the classic 4 stages of creativity: preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification.
The light bulb moment doesn't just happen, right? There's work before and after.
Exactly. Preparation is the initial research and exploration. Incubation is letting it simmer in your subconscious. Illumination is the aha moment. Verification is testing and refining the idea. Cycles build this process into your workflow.
And these cycles can align with bigger rhythms, like seasons.
Yeah, Kadavy used the dramatic seasons in Chicago to create a natural 3-year cycle for himself. Harsh winters were perfect for deep concentration. The explore, research, generate Polish stages.
And summers.
Summers were for recharge and, crucially, incubation, letting ideas marinate. He said his big idea for his first book actually clicked during a relaxed summer day.
But we can use shorter cycles too, right? Like weekly ones.
Oh, definitely. Weekly routines are incredibly powerful. Ari Meisel, the productivity consultant, structures his whole week around different types of tasks, specific days or times for specific mental states.
How does that help?
It deepens focus because you're not switching contexts as much. It reduces that costly multitasking. And counterintuitively, it can actually reduce procrastination because you've pre-committed time for that task. Okay, Monday morning is generate time.
Planning the week also helps fight the planning fallacy, doesn't it? Our tendency to underestimate how long things take.
Massively.
What?
When Kadavy worked on that Timeful app, putting tasks directly onto a calendar forced him to confront how often he was unprepared, got interrupted, or was just wildly optimistic about duration. Scheduling makes the reality visible.
So he started mapping his own mental states onto his week.
Yeah, like Monday mornings, after the weekend's recharge and incubation, that was peak creative energy, perfect for generate. Later in the week or afternoons when energy dipped, might be better for Polish or research.
And Fridays.
Often reserved for administrate tasks, clearing the decks when creative energy was lower anyway.
This led to his powerful rule, right? Protecting prime time.
Yes. Setting rules like no meetings on Mondays or Tuesdays. That wasn't just about avoiding interruptions. It was about protecting that peak creative energy, staying in that event time mindset for deep work without the looming pressure of the next calendar appointment.
He even scheduled time for planning, like a prefrontal Monday or a Sunday review.
Right. Dedicated time just for that high-level prioritized state. Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. Steve Jobs was famous for that at Apple, being proud of the projects they didn't pursue.
So you do the high-level planning, then the rest of the week is more about execution within those chosen states.
Exactly. And the beauty of these cycles is that they allow you to employ your passive genius.
Meaning incubation happens naturally.
Yes. Your subconscious keeps working on problems in the background, between focused work sessions. It clears out weak mental connections, strengthens relevant ones. Big problems seem less daunting when you come back to them after a break. It's the science behind sleeping on it.
Or how you suddenly figure out the perfect itinerary for that San Francisco trip while you're in the shower, days after you stopped actively thinking about it.
That's your passive genius at work. And you can intentionally create space for deeper incubation too, with something like a week of want.
A whole week. What's the idea there?
Clear the decks completely. No obligations, no specific goals. Just follow your curiosity wherever it leads for a whole week. It allows for really deep incubation and often leads to unexpected breakthroughs.
Like Bill Gates' famous Think Weeks.
Or Laura Roeder dedicating a full podcast week each month. It's about creating intentional space for that deeper, undirected thinking.
Okay, so cycles provide the rhythm. What about the structure? He talks about creative systems.
Yeah, think of it like baking cupcakes. You have standardized molds. That's your process, your system. But using those molds, you can create an amazing variety of unique cupcakes.
The system provides the structure so you can focus on the creative part.
Exactly. His own podcast production became a creative system. Having that system in place actually gave him the resilience to record a crucial interview, even when his personal life was in absolute chaos. Without the system, he probably would have just canceled.
That's powerful. What are the key parts of building a system like that?
One really effective tool is the minimum creative dose.
Sounds intriguing. Like a prescription.
Kind of. It's about breaking huge projects down into ridiculously tiny, manageable steps. Like if you want to learn Spanish, maybe commit to just watching 20 minutes of a Spanish movie daily.
Why does that work?
Because even that tiny action activates loose ends in your brain, keeps a project simmering, encourages that passive genius, that incubation, even when you only have a tiny bit of energy or time. It makes starting less intimidating.
This reminds me of his idea of SOPs, but not standard operating procedures.
Right, sloppy operating procedures. The name itself takes the pressure off. These aren't rigid, perfect manuals. They're living, evolving checklists or guides that you create, maybe even find fun to create because they save you mental energy later.
Like his process for writing podcast intros.
Exactly. He learned to listen back to interviews multiple times, maybe while commuting or doing chores, just jotting down quick, timestamp notes on insights or good quotes.
So he's doing the cognitive heavy lifting, the research and explore part, in small chunks, almost passively.
Yeah, leveraging multi-channel, multitasking, and incubation. By the time he actually sat down to write the intro script, generate Polish, the hardest thinking was already done. It flowed much more easily.
It's like Ira Glass saying he edits interviews in his head automatically now.
That's it. Through repetition, these routines get hardwired into the basal ganglia, your brain's habit center. The process becomes more automatic, freeing up your conscious mind. David Rock talks about this long-term potentiation.
Systems also involve constraints, don't they? Which sounds counterintuitive for creativity.
It does, but constraints can be liberating. Standardizing parts of the process, even if it feels like a compromise, frees up creative energy for the parts that really matter.
Like interchangeable parts in manufacturing allowed cars to be produced creatively on a mass scale.
Or Robert Frost saying writing free verse was like playing tennis with the net down. The rules, the constraints can actually enhance the game.
So well-established creative systems allow projects to move from the demanding front burner
Requiring your peak creative energy, yeah.
to the back burner where they run more smoothly, more automatically.
Right. His podcast became a back burner project thanks to his SOPs and system. That freed up his best front burner energy for writing his next book or tackling novel, complex challenges. He didn't even need to think about the podcast on release day.
Okay, system cycles. This all sounds great when things are going smoothly, but what about when life throws a massive curveball?
Ah, that's the ultimate test, isn't it? And Kadavy faced it head-on. Visa problems, a bedbug infestation, and then the worst. His mother suffered a sudden life-threatening brain hemorrhage while he was abroad.
Oh my God, how do you create anything in the midst of that kind of chaos?
It forced him to make his systems truly bulletproof. He came to embrace the idea that things don't go as planned, that is the plan.
Which sounds a lot like Nassim Nicholas Taleb's concept of anti-fragile.
Exactly. Not just resilient, able to withstand shocks, but anti-fragile. Systems that actually get stronger from chaos, stress, and uncertainty, like muscles growing back stronger after being torn during exercise. That became the goal.
So how did his systems help him cope during his mother's illness? Did he just stop working?
He couldn't stop entirely, but he had to adapt. He lowered his standards significantly. The mantra became, just do something today. He leaned heavily on that minimum creative dose. Even a tiny bit of progress kept things moving.
And his simmer projects probably helped too. Ideas just cooking in the background.
Definitely. But a key tactical element was how he organized his tasks. Not just by project, but by mental state.
Ah, back to PER golf, PR.
Right. He tagged tasks in his system with things like explore, generate, administrate. So even when he was sitting by his mother's hospital bed, completely drained, he could look at his list and find something actionable that matched his current low-energy state.
Like maybe drafting a very rough blog post idea in explore mode instead of trying to force Polish mode.
Precisely. It allowed him to keep making some kind of progress, however small, without demanding peak performance he didn't have.
He also talks about inboxes and the creative cascade. What's that about?
It's about capturing ideas efficiently. He has multiple inboxes, a pocket notebook, maybe digital notes, project-specific folders. Even his SOP documents act as a kind of inbox for process improvements.
So you capture ideas immediately wherever you are.
Yes, the goal is to get it out of your head quickly. Close that conscious mental loop, which allows your subconscious incubation to take over. Then later, you systematically process those captured ideas down the creative cascade into actionable tasks, tagged by mental state, when you have the right energy and context.
Like using past triggers to remember things.
Exactly. A trigger is just a reminder placed in the right context, like putting your gym bag by the door the night before. The best triggers are reliable, tied to a specific context, easy to act on, and attached to the action itself.
And those simmer projects, the R&D folders, they play a role in anti-fragility too.
Yeah, they're crucial. Having folders for ideas you're not actively working on, just letting them cook indefinitely, frees up huge amounts of mental energy. You don't feel obligated to pursue every single idea right now. But they're there, ready. If circumstances change or an opportunity arises, it builds slack into your creative pipeline.
So the big takeaway from that incredibly difficult period wasn't just about survival, was it?
No, it was this hard-learned truth. Nothing happens for a reason, but it does happen. You can't control external events. But good systems, anti-fragile systems, don't just eliminate slack. They create slack. They give you the capacity to adapt, to bend without breaking, even to grow stronger from the unpredictable chaos of life.
True productivity isn't about perfectly controlling everything. It's about building systems that can handle and even benefit from the messiness.
And that whole journey, which started as this experiment in managing his mind in Medellin, it ended up becoming his permanent life. He lives there now, fully embracing that event-time culture, having built this remarkably anti-fragile creative existence.
It's an amazing story. Okay, let's try to pull this all together. The core message seems clear. Mastering mind management, not just time management, is absolutely vital for doing creative work and, frankly, for navigating life in this unpredictable creative age.
Right. You've got to start by rethinking time itself. Challenge that time worship. Remember, it's often more descriptive than prescriptive for creative tasks.
Then, find your creative sweet spot, that optimal mental state, maybe when you're a bit groggy, when the prefrontal cortex isn't quite so dominant, and try that first hour rule.
And respect the natural flow. The 4 stages of creativity: preparation, incubation, illumination, verification. Understand that progress isn't always linear and that downtime for incubation is essential work.
Get familiar with the 7 mental states, PER, golf, PAR. Prioritize, explore, research, generate, polish, administrate, recharge. Be intentional about matching your state to your task. Use tools that help, not hinder grippy or slippy. Shape your environment.
Look for ways to build creative cycles into your work weekly routines, maybe even longer rhythms. These provide structure and harness your natural energy fluctuations. Protect that prime creative time with powerful rules.
And finally, develop anti-fragile creative systems. Don't aim for perfection. Build sloppy operating procedures. Use the minimum creative dose to keep things moving. Capture ideas relentlessly with inboxes and the creative cascade. Use task triggers. Let ideas simmer.
It's a fundamental shift. It's not just about tweaking your schedule. It's about understanding and working with your brain's natural tendencies to foster creativity.
Your mind isn't an assembly line. It's more like a dynamic, sometimes messy ecosystem. So, here's a final thought for you listening. Considering that life really is what happens while you're busy making other plans, what parts of your own creative life, your work, might be too rigid right now? Where could you build in more slack, more anti-fragility, so you're ready not just to survive chaos, but maybe even grow from it?
We really hope this deep dive has given you a useful shortcut to understanding this mind management paradigm, and maybe spark some ideas about how you can cultivate your own mental ecosystem for more effective, sustainable creativity. What stood out most to you? How might you start applying some of these ideas?